Greetings, my audience. Good morning. I'm reviewing Spider-Man, the Homecoming trilogy from 2017 to 2021. 21, I think. It ended in the third installment came out. So, hang on. Trying to pause it. Picture. Pause. Hello. Getting a drink. Getting one. Hang on. So this is my review on the Spider-Man trilogy with Tom Holland's. I give all three installments with Tom Holland's Spider-Man a 2 out of 10. The movies I'm giving. Because while I did find them fun while I was watching them, at least the Tom Holland run, I can't ever feel like, as much as I found engaging and fun, all three installments, I felt like everything was completely pointless in the long run of its character arc of the trilogy, because I don't see how the trilogy really connects in at all. All three installments feel like separate, coherent stories, and with Spider-Man, but there's no character growth maturing from the character Spider-Man Peter Parker from any of them within the trilogy of his run. Like, we never see him mature as Spider-Man and as Peter Parker. We never see him really grow into adulthood. And it kind of glanced over off in the Peter Parker half is like kind of absent a lot in the trilogy was running. Considering we're so often focused on him as his Spider-Man persona. By the time we get to the third one, his secret identity's out into the public. And it's like, even though Peter Parker is relevant more to the plot, with the third one, it's kind of pointless because his secret identity is already out there as Spider-Man and Peter Parker, so it's like, what's the point in setting the stakes and the drama there? It's like just like seems kind of pointless to make him. And then the movie, this one gets good. The movie, when the movie's starting to get good at the end, it ends with the third installment. Once the movie, fixes everything with the continuity era of having people not know that Spider-Man and Peter Parker are the same person. By Peter making up a new wish by asking people to forget Peter Parker, just remember Spider-Man, the hero. Just when the movie's about to get good and resets the timeline, it ends there. And I'd expect for the fourth one, they're going to completely glance over the chapter that was the most interesting and just scrap it aside and throw it away for whatever story they want to tell for the spectacle of the fourth installment. Because that's what Marvel Studios is known for doing with Spider-Man not taking risks with the character and progressing the character in maturity into adulthood. And not telling a coherent narrative with the character as he enters into adulthood and out of childhood years, high school years. And, that's my big problem with Tom Holland's Spider-Man run, more than Maguire's run. I think Tom Holland's a worker Spider-Man than Maguire. After his 3 runs of movies that sucked. Maybe Brand New Day will be a hard reboot, reimagining, but I doubt it. I think it's going to be more of the same shit with Tom Holland's Spider-Man run. Called, working title is going to be Spider-Man Brand New Day. And that's the title of the Spider-Man comic run, is after the fucked up everything with One More Day. Brand New Day was a follow-up series of One More Day after the retcon the events and undid Mary, James, and Peter's relationship forever in Marvel 616 Comics. That's what Spider-Man Brand New Day is. So hopefully they won't take. Hopefully maybe they'll take a loose inspiration for Spider-Man Brand New Day and make a loose adaptation of Spider-Man Brand New Day, which is one of the weakest, worst of Spider-Man comic runs. It is the first Spider-Man run when it all started to go bad after One More Day. And people grew sick of Spider-Man since from 616 Universe Comics. Because he never matured or got back together with MJ. He just became an immature jackass, like Holland's Spider-Man. Only care about himself more, absorbed with himself than what he wants and then what's right. That was placed on by the wisdom of his Uncle Ben was that great power comes great responsibility speech in the comics. Spider-Man Brand New Day, the 4th installment, unless it takes inspiration from the older comics before One More Day, and just has the Brand New Day title attached to it as a marketing gimmick, I don't think it's going to be a good Spider-Man movie. I think it's going to be like take inspiration from more of the modern Spider-Man eras, where Spider-Man Peter Parker began to suck in the 616 comics. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the newer characters, besides Mr. Negative, shows up. Screwball shows up. You know, the one that became more well known for the Spider-Man PlayStation 2 game. That's an actual character that Spider-Man faces as a B character, villain. In the comics, 616 comics. One of the new shitty villains. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if Screwball gets race swapped or gender swapped by Marvel Studio when they do a first live action portrayal on her or he. Just because that's what they do. I'm surprised they didn't do that with Peter when they brought him into the MCU. They didn't race swap or gender swap Peter. I was surprised by that. Because I was expecting the worst outcome for Peter. This ain't the worst outcome for Peter. They didn't race or gender swap Peter from something he's not in the 616 comics. But they probably would have if they had less people know about Peter. Like if the 2002 Spider-Man movie never got made, it made money back, it got well known, applied to public domain, I bet if that Spider-Man movie never got made and Tom Holland's Spider-Man movie got made first run, they would have gender swap or race swap Peter or both. And still put Peter's name on it. And say, that's Peter Parker. And that's your Spider-Man from the 616 comics. And you feel good that you got a live action portrayal, even though you pissed on it over your childhood that you fell in love with from the 616 comics. That's what I think is what Marvel would have done if 2002 Spider-Man never got made. That's why I like Maguire Spider-Man more than Tom Holland's Spider-Man. as a better Spider-Man portrayal. Because I can appreciate and respect the fact that they did not gender or race swap intentionally Peter. On purpose. But I think Marvel would have done that to Peter if Spider-Man trilogy never got made with Andrews or Maguire's era. That's my guess what they wanted to do, but couldn't do that because he became too well known because eras with Andrew and Maguire's eras. Before Tom Holland took on the mantle. So, that's my theory on why Tom Holland didn't got race swap. Let's probably think Peter Parker Spider-Man got race swap or gender swap or both before he made his debut in the MCU. But I'm sure they would have done that 100% if 2002 Spider-Man movie never happened. Thank God it happened. Thank God. Because, I mean, as a genuine appreciation for 2002 Spider-Man. 2002 Spider-Man, I hate that movie. I respect that more than any Maguire's run or anything out of Tom Holland's run, 2002 Spider-Man movie. I like 2002 Spider-Man movie out of the Spider-Man movies I hate the most. The least. I hated one. It's 2002 Spider-Man movie. That's my least hated one. Of Raimi trilogy and Holland's trilogy. I didn't like. I mean, I didn't like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 that much. Like, I liked the first one. But that's a different story. I don't want to confuse you audience by adding too much movie reference in one video. Because I don't want to lose my point. And lose off track. Get distracted. So, that's why I think Tom Holland's the worst Spider-Man movie of all reincarnation of Spider-Man of all time. For Peter Parker Spider-Man. Because I have a feeling, you know, Marvel wasn't really wanting to care about Peter Parker Spider-Man, even though more people care about Spider-Man than Marvel Studios cares about. Here's what I think. I think the fans that watch the Raimi films and the Andrew films were more of the fans of Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man, and care more about Spider-Man than what Marvel executives care about Spider-Man, Peter Parker's take on Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man from Marvel Comics. Because I honestly think if nobody knew Spider-Man, who Spider-Man was, they would have gender, race swapped both with Peter Parker Spider-Man to slap his name on the same title, not change any of his history or except his gender and race, but still keep his history the same. Just genderize and race swap the characters. I think they would do if the 2001 Spider-Man movies from the first era were by Sony. With Andrews' era and Maguire's era, never got made. They would have done that with Tobey Maguire, was Holland Spider-Man. Holland wouldn't have played Spider-Man. It would have been someone else that played Spider-Man that was a black female. And took the Peter Parker mantle with the same name and still calls himself Spider-Man. That's what I think Marvel would have done. I'm pretty sure they would have done that with Peter. I feel confident enough, 101% confident enough that they would do that with Peter. If Holland didn't play Spider-Man, didn't got the opportunity to play Spider-Man, and someone else did, and it would have been a black female person. And that would have only happened if the Maguire never donned the mantle, including Andrew Garfield never donned the mantle of Spider-Man. But since he had two big actors that donned the mantle of Spider-Man before Holland's, and Holland was the first unknown actor before us. I don't know if you know this, but Holland was the only unknown person to play Spider-Man for his first outing. Maguire, Andrew, they were all known actors. Holland was an unknown actor when he took on the mantle of Spider-Man for his first outing and in Civil War. Nobody knew who Holland was, really. He even became a household name until after he got the job as Spider-Man. So, what makes you think that I'm wrong and think that they wouldn't have done that with a black female person if Maguire never made a Spider-Man movie or Andrew never made a Spider-Man movie? And this was the first only live action of Spider-Man we had. Was in the MCU canon timeline. They would have gender swap and race swap Peter Parker in a heartbeat. Marvel Studios would definitely do that. I know that for a fact because they don't care about Spider-Man. They split his MJ, Peter. They split Peter up with Mary Jane from the 616 home where they were already happily married for over a decade. And in one more day, to this day, since the early 2000s split them up, they still haven't brought them back together. And Spider-Man has gone on more of an unmature character and more of an unlikable jackass than he was ever before, because he's a more incompetent hero in the comics now. They don't know how to make him win a fight even, regularly. Which is B-list villains, like Shocker. He loses often against Shocker, and other B-list villains for him. That's how bad he's gone in the 616 comic. They should let that character, they should really kill off that character and let him rest until he can find something to do with the main 616 universe, Peter Parker, find some good ideas to tell. Or they should let that character rest forever in the 616 universe and only let the new Ultimate lineup touch Peter Parker and have the main universe 616 Peter Parker be Miles Morales and throw away Peter Parker forever. Because you can't tell any good stories with Peter like you can with Miles in the 616 universe. That gets praised and well known by fans, you know? So, Tom Holland's run is taking inspirations more from the modern comics of 616 Spider-Man after one more day. You know, when Peter's perfect and has a perfect life and everything, doesn't really have bad luck at all, and he's not the most competent hero, and he's kind of not funny as Spider-Man or nor as Peter Parker. He's just selfish sometimes, too often, as Spider-Man and Peter Parker, and doesn't know what he's doing as a competent hero. I feel like Holland's run takes more inspiration from the new Spider-Man media of 616 Spider-Man after one more day happened. So here's Spider-Man from 616. This is the shitty version of Spider-Man 616, taking inspiration from those stories after one more day happened. It hasn't made a single good story since one more day happened with the Spider-Man media 616. That's another reason why I think Ultimate Spider-Man, I think old Ultimate Spider-Man lineup and the new Spider-Man Ultimate lineup is better than anything, is better than the 616 universe of Spider-Man because of one more day and so much damage they've done to characters since of 616 Spider-Man. But that's just my feelings. Anyway, that's my view on Spider-Man 2017-2021 Holland Trilogy. Why give it a 2 out of 10. I should probably talk about the villains so that way you know which one's which movie. Well, the third one is where Holland goes against the Raimi villains and the Andrew villains. But none of his own villains in his own universe. So, in the first two ones, he goes up against his own universe's Mysterio and his own universe's Vulture in the first one of Homecoming. First two ones, he goes against his universe of Vulture and his universe then of Mysterio that poses as a multiverse from Multiverse, but then finds out he's full of shit as an act by Mysterio plan. So, but in the third one, he goes against Andrews and Maguire's villains he's fought in the past of his run. For both Spider-Man runs. Of Andrews and Maguire's run. So, when he fights his villains from the previous runs of Spider-Man, he often gets his ass handed to him because he's too weak. And the villains are too overpowered than Tom Holland's Spider-Man because he's the weakest villain version of Spider-Man variant. Because he's completely very nerfed for his power, strength level, compared to the Andrews and Maguire's. And Maguire's strength power level was very inconsistent with his writing, because even though we're always constantly shown of how strong he is, he often he's often forced to say dialogue like he's struggling with the weight, even though he's clearly not struggling with the weight. Like, you know, like when he saves MJ in Spider-Man 2, he's those lines saying the wall was really heavy, and he doesn't deliver like he means it. He delivers like he's barely strong. He just says it's really heavy. Maybe he's like lying, or maybe this is a bad actor played by a bad actor, Maguire. Not trying at all, really enough, to get the best line performance of that line. Yeah, that's my problem with Maguire, and you know, that was one of my other problems with Maguire. Even though he's shown often being an incredible, athletic, strongest Spider-Man, and pushing his limits often, and succeeding and lifting and stuff with really heavy stuff, he's often forced to say dialogue that makes it sound like he's can't really handle it, even though he clearly can handle the weight and lift. We're seeing him with his pretty much using more strength than any other man could lift, because we see him as super strength, Maguire's Spider-Man, constantly for his trilogy, more than we see Holland using his super strength in his trilogy and athletics. And we only see it one time using super strength, and that's in the third installment. And when he fights his villains from a parallel universe, he gets his ass handed a lot more than Maguire could, or Andrew could, from when they fought their own villains. And he fights Andrew's villains and Maguire's villains from both universes in the third installment, but not his own universe villains. And he gets his ass into him a lot. He doesn't, even when he stops holding back against the Green Goblin, it's kind of implied he stops holding back and starts punching harder, and we see him losing it and punching hard at Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin harder than ever. And Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin is just laughing it off, like it doesn't even hurt him. And so that makes it prove that this Spider-Man is probably the weakest live-action Spider-Man. And how is that like really the best live? That's really not a good sign, because in the comics, Spider-Man is supposed to be like the Marvel Superman with his strength. You know, he's supposed to be like the guy that he's supposed to be like a relatable character, but he was also supposed to be this really overpowered character and also relatable character because of his spider power. Was that he has like powers of what he can climb walls, he can have super strength, and he has really good agility and dodging because of spider sense. He can detect danger before it happens because of his spider sense, which lets him dodge it. And I feel like Holland's and Maguire's run really doesn't understand how to use Spider-Man's powers often consistently with the writing. Like, I feel like they often have to nerf the character just to make sense of his power level within the story while telling a coherent narrative. I feel like that's what they do. Well, they do intentionally or not. I don't know if they do intentionally or not. But I noticed that Holland and Maguire is guilty of this. And that's why I couldn't really, one of the main reasons why I couldn't get into their runs as Spider-Man. I just think it's kind of stupid that you nerf Spider-Man's power level just for the sake of trying to tell a 3-act structure about a Spider-Man story. You know, that's about him. But you have to, I don't think you should nerf, like, the story, nerf the character, like, when he's known for using his spider sense and his athletic agility so often in the comic panels. That's the most consistent things he's known for using. Why not just have him more trouble, like, with the web shooters? Like, why not just have him run out of the web shooters with the Holland run often? Like, that's what they did when they had to nerf him. They often have to, like, the only time in the comics, when they had to nerf him to show that he's in deep shit, they often had to, have him run out of his web fluid in the comics, because it's mechanical web fluid that he makes himself with science and stuff. But that's when they do what they're known for doing. Creative is known for doing nothing, and giving him extra trouble when he doesn't have any web fluid on him to refill. So he has to go allowed to make more or at home make more when he's not Spider-Man, but Peter Parker on his free time. But we never see that. We never see them do that. We just see him not have consistent spider sense and not have consistent Spider-Man super strength and agility within Holland's run and Maguire's run. Now, I think it's more excusable in Maguire's run because his run has organic webs. And Tom Holland's run has mechanical webs like Andrew's arrow did. Like the 616 Spider-Man did when he was invented by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, I believe. Well, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. I forget the... I know Stan Lee worked with Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby often when they were creating back in the Silver Age era of comics. But I think he worked less with Steve Ditko, so I think that was the one that drew Spider-Man. And Stan Lee was the one that wrote in the dialogue that Spider-Man said and stuff. Because he can't draw Spider-Man, even though he took full credit for creating Spider-Man, even though it was more of a part his idea of pitching the idea, but he never drew Spider-Man because he can't draw characters like Spider-Man like that well detailed. He didn't draw Spider-Man ever. He didn't draw Spider-Man when the character was being invented. That was the drawer, Steve Ditko. I mean, Stan Lee has admitted he can't draw Spider-Man, but he just sees the picture is more important than the drawer. Even when a lot of people forget what even when more people think of Spider-Man, they think of not really with the dialogue. They just think of what he looks like on the outside with the costume. When you think about it, public wise, before it gets an adaptation of any kind, they just know what his costume looks like. This is the way I see it. So it's almost like the Steve Ditko's picture. The artist is more responsible for creating Spider-Man than Stan Lee is. That's the way I feel like it seems like that when I'm analyzing from a certain point of view, That seems like Stan Lee's is a con artist. Comes across like this. Once I found all of this, I felt like Stan Lee comes across as incompetent. I mean, this most competent con artist with this whole huge ego that thinks that he's a nice guy, but he's just a dickhead. Like Chris Rock. And a backstabbing asshole, weasel. What Stan Lee comes across, and it, once I heard all this stuff, you have a treat artist that created these characters, he's just an asshole. Fuck Stan Lee. I mean, he's probably one of the workers of part of hell. Thank God for what he did for Stan Lee, for what he did to Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby, and I give him credit for creating the characters. That was shared creation with Stan Lee. And, he's basically his main, like, Bob Kane was Bill Finger with all his artists, I noticed. When you hear him in interviews and he doesn't talk about himself, or other people talk about himself, you're going to see who's the bad guy. Clearly, Stan Lee's the Bob Kane of DC creators. Less than a genius. That's a nice guy. He's some asshole, like Kid Rock. Stan Lee I realize Stan Lee is that type of a person. Of a sleazeball. The person. I mean, so I don't have respect for him as a person because he comes across as an asshole, screwing over out of creative rights and money for Stan Lee. Stan Lee did that to Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby more than once when they helped him with great characters from our comic Silver Age. And I don't respect him anymore as a person. I think he's in hell, Stan Lee. I honestly believe that. I hope I don't go where he's going. If hell exists and afterlife exists, I have no idea. But if it does, I'm pretty sure hell is where he would go. I don't have any proof that afterlife exists, but believe really afterlife exists 100% often. I flip-flop back and forth with my beliefs. Believing afterlife exists or not. It's just hard to tell for me, beyond 100% sure all the time. I want to fit my faith in the afterlife because of, well, there's so many idiots and assholes in the world. How can we believe there's an afterlife 100% all the time? When so many things in the world just doesn't make sense in the universe. That's just how I feel, often. And it's why I flip-flop back and forth my belief in the afterlife. Between believing it and not believing it. So that's my review on the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy. Why I give it 2 out of 10. I'm just sorry I went on a rant with Stan Lee and why I hate him as a person. I feel like that could have been shorter. Maybe it couldn't have been. I don't know. I read as short as I could read without dragging on too much this video. You can drink first. I hope you enjoyed this video on Tom Holland's Spider-Man run. That's why I give it 2 out of 10. Goodbye. Subscribe to my content. My name's Jake Allen Graham. Goodbye. Till next time video.